Hello everyone, how's everyone doing tonight? I want to paint a nosy cow. And the reason I call it nosy is because that's all you see is its nose. So let's get started. For the for the colors on the cow, I mean, it's pretty much just basic. You have your darkest is your black, your lightest is your white. Of course, you got the pink. And I'm going to use a little burnt sienna for the browns around, little spots of browns. But everything gets shaded. So I'm just going to use all these colors, and it will get mixed with the white to go lighter, or it'll get mixed with a little black to go darker. Very basic colors. But first I'm going to do this blue on top, and then we'll end up with the dark on the bottom. Blue, white, and then I'm going to grab a different kind of blue. I'm just going to, because I'm not trying to match the picture for the background, I'm just doing my own color scheme. And then we'll do these greens and whites when I'm just going to put that down. And I'm going to use a real wide brush to do the background. Let me get a paper towel here. I'm going to wet my brush, and I'm just going to dampen a little bit. And I'm going to take a little bit of blue, white, and I'm going to start running it across. See, that dark's going to come through. I should have maybe used a white one. And then I'll stick a little bit of the darker blue and the white. Kind of run that up through there. Now I'm just going to wipe that off, and then I'm going to go with this color. Put some more of that on top. And I want to do the edges because this is going to be hanging without any frame. So I'm just going to tap around the edges. I know I've never done a painting video, but I've done a lot of painting. So it's been a while. All right, now I'm going to dry this. That same blue and some white. And I'm going to put a second coat. And I just want it to be blended to where you can see a little this, a little that. Because it's a sky. And then on any given day, the sky is different. All right, I think that's covered up enough. Let me do this again go around the outside. Just to give it that extra coat to cover up the black canvas. Okay. All right, I'm gonna rinse my brush. We're done with that. This is a spring green. We got some clumps in it. This is Mountain Forest. It's a little thicker. And then we'll do some more white. And we're gonna put a little burnt sienna because the ground down through the grass sometimes gets brown. All right, I want to do a little white, a little of the light green. We'll take a little dark green. And into the blue, I'm going to go over the blue. And blend it. And I'm going to grab some more white, more green, and more of the light green, and I'm going to do this all the way down. And now I'm going to grab a little brown, a little white. We'll just kind of blend that up to the green. A little green, a little white. I'll just bring it down. And I want to just cover the edges. So that the edges are all covered. And wherever this green ends, make sure you kind of match up the color a little bit. All right, I'm gonna dry this. I don't think we're gonna need two coats because let me see here. Let me do a little blending there. Okay, we want to put this down. I'm going to put this down like on the edge and on that edge so I know. Now I'm going to take this. Okay, because the edge of it's here. Kind of center it. Make sure his ears are both in. And these are embossing tools. And this is what I'm going to trace with. These have a little balls at the end. And there's different sizes. I think this will be a good size to use for tracing. So I'm going to hold this. I'm going to start here. I'm going to trace his ear. I want to make sure it's going on. Okay, it's going on. I'll bring his eye around. Now I want to get some of his detail of his eye. And where it's dark at, I want to make sure I have that outlined because I want to make sure I get that detail. And his ear is kind of folded right here, and I want that detail. And then this is where the hair is. I want that. And this. So you can see the detail on it. Make sure I got his eyeball. We didn't do his eyeball. Let me see here. All right, now I got his eyeball. And then as we come up around here, I want to just follow the shaded areas because that's going to be the color change right there. And then I'm just going to follow around his snout. And I keep lifting this up so it's not pulling the page. And bring it all the way around, up. And he has a little hump on his head, and we want to make sure we get a line under that because that's going to be a color change because that's darker with the brown kind of in it. And I want to check, I got that. All right, where his snout, well, where his snout is, it's pink. I'm going to kind of just go around there. Now this is going to be a color change right here because the bottom lip is darker than the snout part itself. And we're going to come around. Okay, and then where his nose is, it's real light right there. And it comes around, and then there's some color change, and it's not flat, it's kind of wiggly. I want to make sure I get that because that's going to tell me I have to change that, and I can look at the picture and see where the line is on my canvas and work it. Now this little dark stuff here, I'm just going to kind of like give it a little line where that might be, and we'll touch that in with some dark. And then right here where this little dip is and that comes around, I want to mark that because it starts shading right there. And then I'll come up and I'll come around his other ear, and I'm just going to trace his whole ear, and it doesn't have to be perfect. And then where the hair is kind of covering, I'm just kind of going like that. And then right here where the ear folds a little bit, I'm just going to put a line. And now we have his eye. And I'm going to go around the inside of the eye. And then I'm going to come out where it starts changing color. And I'm going to come up and follow that line. And there's two little, kind of looks like eyelashes maybe. Here's one over here too. And then we're going to get his eyeball. And I think we've got it all. Maybe I didn't do this. Did I do this one? Let me come around this again. All right, let me check. Is that looking like a cow? Well, I think it looks like a cow. I think we got it all. There is a little right here I didn't get. It's like a skin, I guess, with some color. Right here is like some shaded. I'm gonna go around that. Make sure I got it all. I must have went around it twice. Okay. All right. And then we'll fill in his whiskers after he's completely painted. All right, we got that. This is an 8. This is the size I like to use, and it'll come to a point when it's wet. Like when I wet it, see how it comes to a point? And that way I can get into small spots. All right, I'm gonna start with the darkest colors. That's his eye. We're gonna start with it. Let's just start with his eye. His eye is black. It is black. And it does have light colors in his eyes, and we will put those in after the black dries. But right now we're just gonna start with the black. And we're gonna get his eyes put in. You always start with the darkest color and then work your way up to the lightest color. And these lines are just there to help you keep everything in the right area. Because I am not good at just eyeballing and drawing. So this is just lines that guide you. And this eye is looking a little bigger than this eye, so we gotta make it look a little bigger. How's that look? I think it looks good. Now we're gonna come up here, and he's got a dark spot here. So we're gonna put that dark spot in there. And then he has some dark spots around his eye, but they're not touching his eyeball. When that dark comes up, there's white between there, but actually it's kind of gray. So we're gonna leave a little space in there, and then we'll come up and bring that down. And I'm just gonna make it look similar to what I see on the paper. And then we're gonna come up around his eye, and we're gonna do that eyelash. I think it's an eyelash, actually a black eyelash, because there's two of them. There's one there. But this is all black coming around his eye. And this will come down almost to his eyeball. So there, and there's a, this comes up a little higher and it comes over. I think those are eyelashes. And then the end of his ear, and down here it's all black underneath. And the white will get shaded over top of that. I started painting in 2010. I thought it was always hard, and I went to a class, and I forget what we did, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier than I thought it was. And ever since, I've been painting pictures of animals, and animals for me seem to be easier. I've done a couple pictures of faces, and people can be a little hard for me. Everybody's different, but people are a little hard, I think. But that's just me. That's just the way the brain and the hand functions, I guess. And the color you see. So I'm coming around his ear. Now that's all filled in. Now we have his nose. His nose is black right there. And I'm just going to trace this line and just leave that black right there. We will lighten it up with the pink when we get to it, but that's there. Now I'm going to come over on this side and do the same thing. Actually, I'm going to turn it around, and I'm going to turn the picture around because I want to be able to see what I'm working on. I want to do the ear. And I just squiggled some lines where the fur was. And if you've never painted, don't be afraid to pick up some brushes and some paints, some basic color paints, and just sit down and give it a go. It's a lot easier than you might think. Or sign up to go to one of those paint and sip classes, where that's where my first painting session was a paint and sip. And I was hooked ever since. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to finish his eye. Now he has a black little, we'll just kind of do that. But then he comes around This is all black. Now if you go over like I just went over right there, when I come over here and I start painting the rest of the ear, I will cover that piece of black up. And then there's a couple eyelashes. And I think we have all the black that we need to put in. Now we're going to look at the picture and we're going to go to the next color. And the next color would be the gray, where it's kind of, there is a touch of blue. I'm seeing a little touch of blue. And we can put a little touch of blue. Well, let's go with the darker blue. When you start looking at this, this is kind of like a blue. And I'm just going to put a little dot of blue right there if I need to mix the blues with the white. All right. So we're going to go with that. We're going to do a little black, a little white, maybe more white, because we want that to look. And now I'm going to touch it with the blue. And don't be afraid to do what I'm doing right here. I am touching that. And you can hardly see it because it's almost blending. So I'm adding a touch more blue. And then I'm going to come over here and look at that. That is so close to being the color. I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start with that blue. It's like a blue-gray. And I'm starting to fill all these little shadowed spots in. I'm just going to come along here. And I'm going to keep touching the white, the black, and the blue. And I'm going to add this color all the way down to about right there, because the color's going to start changing. And I'm kind of like going the way the fur is laying. Now this is starting to get a little bit lighter, so we're going to put some more white on this. And I'm going to touch this with the white. And that is the color that needs to come and blend in with this. And I'm going to just partially stroke upwards into this dark color because it's going to get blended. And then we're going to go a little bit lighter because it's starting to lighten up as it's coming down on his cheek. And I'm just pulling this, like stroking the fur, like how the fur is laid. And because this is turning more white as it gets near his eye, I dipped my brush into the white. And I'm going to come down here, and I'm not going to clean my brush out. I'm just going to keep. We need to add a little bit more white. I'm going to kind of come up beside that black. We need a little bit more white beside the eye here. Get his eyelid. And I'm going to come back and get a little bit of this blue. And I want to blend this white and this blue together. Now I'm going to have to come back and hit that black. I accidentally went over it too much. Now he does have this little tiny bit of pink right there. But actually, if you take it just a little bit of this burnt sienna, and it's mixed with the white, I think that color right there will be perfect to put that there instead of pink, because it's more muted than the pink on his nose. So I'm going to add some more white. Oops, I accidentally bumped the pink. And I'm going to come down with the white. And I'm going to kind of blend. Now I'm going to come up by his eye. And come up by his eye in there. Now I'm going to take and I'm going to wipe my brush off because I'm wanting to get some of this blue and white with a little bit more white added to it and get the point of my brush so I can trace around his eye and put the white of his eye in there. And in this you can see the blue sky reflecting in the white of his eye. So I just want a little bit of blue to come around and reflect in the white of his eye. And there's one eye, and I'm not going to touch it anymore because I'm going to come back. Let me add just a touch more white. I will come back to it after it's dry and we'll dab a little bit of other colors to it. But right now this is all I want to do. Now I want to come over here and I want to do the same thing over here. So I'm going to flip this upside down because it's easier for me to do this like this. And I want to get that blue and I want to get the white. And we're going to do the blue and the white is where the darkest is. We need a little bit more blue. See, I can touch this right here. See? That is close. That is very close to that color. So I want to put this blue here. Push it down that way. And then I want to come up this way. Get some more blue and white. And I want to come up into this. Remember, his fur is coming up. I'm going with the stroking of his fur around his eyes. Now this goes all the way up into here. You know, and it's like, you're not gonna just, you know, do it quickly. You just take your time and do a little bit, let it dry, and then come back and touch it up. Now see, this is that same color that's over here. So I'm just gonna take a little bit of that burnt sienna, just put a little tiny bit, and this is over here by his eye too. So I'm gonna come up right here where it is on his eye, and it's kind of just blended in with his fur because his fur in his eye, you know how they get a little dirty from being, you know, tears or whatever. The flies and stuff get on his eye. So I'm going to blend that with some white, and then I'm going to come down here where this little blue dots or black dots are and kind of just dab it in there, and then we'll touch that up again. And I'm going to wipe that all off, and I'm going to take my white and I'm going to twist my brush. I want to point, and I want to come up here with the white, and I want to trace around his eyeball because it's the whitest by his eye. And then I'm going to add a little bit of blue because as it goes towards his eyelid, it kind of has blue in it. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to just let that go. I'm just wiping that off, and then I want to do the white because there's a little bit white right here. So we want to put some white in here. And right here is a little bit of white coming off of that dark pink area. And then this is kind of white there. And it starts getting lighter as it comes up by his eyelashes. Now he has a reflection in his eye. and it's kind of bluish white, so I'm going to add a little blue to that. I'm going to come down here. I'm just going to dab just a little bit and kind of make that look similar, but it's never going to be exact. It's not, this is never going to be exact. And then I'm going to take a little bit more blue. I'm just going to, right there's a little bit of blue. And over here, it is more faded with the white. So if I just dab, 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 we've got a little bit of the blue and white. Now the next color we're going to come in, his little bump up here is dark. So I want to go with the burnt sienna, a little bit of white, and just a touch of black. And look at that, it's similar. So let's get, we're just gonna dab, 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 dab. A little bit more sienna. A little white, because it's starting to get a little white over here. And I'm just dabbing. I'm going to rinse just to get my point back. I want a little bit of burnt sienna. I want to come, oops, that's too much burnt sienna. And I want a little bit of gray. Just a little bit of gray in there. All right, I'm going to leave that go. I've got enough color there. And I'm going to come down here on his nose. And I'm going to do this whole section right here. And this is going to be pink, a little bit of burnt sienna, and white. So a little bit of burnt sienna, pink, and white. And if I touch that, it's a little bit lighter. See how that's the same color as that? So now I'm going to come along here, and I just want to put that color in there. And I'm going to come all the way over here. And then as this comes this way, I'm going to add just a touch little black because it kind of looks like a gray. So it's starting to gray up a little bit. And I'm just going to dab into the first color and kind of let that color change a little bit. And then I'm going to add a little white. And I'm going to dab just a little bit down into that. Okay, and then it's coming down. We're going to do the dark stuff coming down the side. So a little burnt sienna, a little pink and white, and a little black because it's kind of dark right there. See, it's that dark. So we want to kind of just dab, dab, dab. Dab this dark color in there. and dab it up into here. We're going to do the other side. I didn't do the black over there. Oh, my bad. I got to do that. So we're just dabbing. Do a little bit of burnt sienna and black and white, because when it comes down here it's pretty dark. All right, I got to touch that up. All right, now we're going to come up here. Do a little bit more right there. All right. Now I want to go lighter. I'm just going to wipe off my brush. Get some white on there. And I want to start bringing some of that white and mixing it with a pinkish color. Now I'm going to start introducing some pink and white. And I just want to do a little tiny bit of gray with that. With the pink and the white and the gray. Because it is just up. See, it's a little bit too dark. See, and when you do that and you see it's a little too dark, just go back and add some more. And then bring it in and dab it. This needs a little bit just more white. I'm going to bring the white in and kind of blend and dab. And this is more pink coming around his nostril. And it's really dark pink, like right in here. But we need to add a little bit of black with that pink, because it's like a grayish pink right here. We'll do this side too. I'm just gonna follow this down, leave a space where the black needs to go, and then to kind of like work that in, and then go lighter. And we'll put a little bit of pink in here and blend it in. I'm just going to wipe my brush off. I'm not changing the color. And I'm going to fill in my black that I need to fill in. I'm going to come up here and bring it down. And then I'm going to add a little bit of the pink and the white and kind of dab in towards the black because I want to blend it. And I want that shaded and faded together, if you see how. And do the same over here. Take that pink and that white and shade it, and just go over the black a little bit and blend it. And then touch a little bit of black and take that black and shade it into it. And we're blending it. And you can just keep doing that until you get to where you want it to be. You can't screw anything up because you'll always be able to go back over it. And if you think something is too dark and you want to go back over it, go back over it. Just like I'm doing, it's adding a little bit more. This needs to be a lighter pink, so I'm going to take two pink, the pink and the white, and I'm just going to start blending it in and bringing it up. And just dabbing. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do a little bit more. Just dab and I need to do that up here too. I just need to, well, we'll figure that one out later. All right, I'm going to do a rinse. All right, I'm going to go with the pink and the white. Just the pink and the white. We're going to get this. We get some of the water off there. Pink and the white. I'm just going to blend some right there in the center. And we're going to just get this filled in. And I'm going to come up here and I'm going to start dabbing, blending, blend, blend, blend. Let me turn it upside down so I can reach. And I'm going to come along here and get that in there. And get some more black and, or pink and white. Now this has more white right here, so I want to bring in more white, dab it around. And because that green is behind there, it's kind of popping through. We'll have to go over this a couple times. And then down here it's white right there. So I'm going to introduce white. And I'm just going to kind of look at the picture, look at my picture, and just kind of get it white right there. And I get a little bit more pink. Do this again. Kind of dab. I need a little bit of white to come across here because that's lighter. So I'm going to introduce some more white and brighten that up. And I'm not going to do it solid. I just want to keep dabbing and blending and dabbing and blending. Now this starts to gray. And I would say not gray, but a little burnt sienna with the pink because it gets just a little. Let me see here, let me just We're dabbing a little bit with the burnt sienna and the pink. We just darken it a little bit. See how I blended that? And I want to come over here and just kind of come across like this and get that little burnt sienna and pink mixed in there. Now this needs more pink right here. So we want to do the burnt sienna and pink again. Just like that. And I want to bring it in here and dab it over top of this gray that I had. We're going to lighten that. I'm just going to go down into the white just a little bit. I want to blend that. And then this goes pink. So I want to go pinker and more pink right there towards the nostril. And come up. I want to do the same thing on this side. Get more pink. With the nostril. And then it goes more white, like right here. So we're getting more white right there. And then this right here is more white. So we get a little bit more white on there. And I'm just dabbing, dab, 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 to blend it. All right, let me see what we got going on here. Let me do a little bit of drying. I'm just gonna leave this dry a little bit. I'm gonna fill this whole area in right here. And this is like a burnt sienna with the white and the pink mixed. So a little burnt sienna, the white and the pink mixed. I need to bring more paper plates up. I'm gonna touch this. And we need a little bit more burnt sienna in it. And we're gonna touch it again. See how that darkened up? Let me see if I can get this. And mixing paint is an art. I mean, you have to play around. All right, we're gonna fill this in. And I'm just going to fill it in. I'm not dabbing. I'm just gonna fill that whole section in with this color, and then we will dab over it to change it as we go. I just wanted to get that color on there because we'll come down. Now down here, we're gonna lighten it. You just add some white to the color that you used here. And fill in this. And I am not a perfectionist. I am not trying to get it exactly. And then as you come around here, add more white because it's lighter. If you just add more white to that. I'm just trying to get the color kind of put in so it can dry, because I have to do a couple layers. When you get up here on top of the nose, that's pretty much white. And this seems to be just white right here. Alright, I'm going to start adding this color back in his nose. And I'm going to dab, kind of blend it with what's here. And that's the pink, white, and this burnt sienna. It's I added just a little bit of white come up here. See, this still looks like it needs a tad bit more white. And then this needs like a little bit of like. Okay, now we're going to come back up here. We're going to get this filled in. And this is going to be it's going to be a shaded white going in there. Let me see what color I got on my. So I'm going to start up here, and it's going to be and I'm going to go over top of the blue that was put in there. And I'm not going to be afraid it's the hair is going to go kind of every which way in the center of his head. So I'm stroking the white hair a little this way, a little that way. And it kind of twirls right here in the center. But I'm just going to keep just small, very small strokes and working my way out and working my way down. Now I didn't do this over here yet. I have to still do that, so I'm going to not mess with that. Let me get these little strokes where they need to be. I'm even going to come all the way over where his eyelashes are and fill this in a little bit with some white, just to put a little bit of a coat of paint there so it'll cover when I come back over. And then he's got like two little areas here that is light. And I'm just going to put that white in there. And I didn't come all the way up here and do this little dabbing. Now I want to go a little dark. I just want to go a little darker. I want to get a little gray in here because he does have gray right here. I gotta fill that in first before I go over it with the white. Come up here and do a little gray right here. And then we'll go over it with the white. And there's a little dark spots here. I'm just kind of brushing it in, and then I'll brush over it again with the white. Okay. Now over here's white. I want to get the white in here. Yeah, I'm gonna have to. Let's see, he's got white that actually comes down. I'm just stroking this on. I'm not dabbing it because I'm just trying to get it on the canvas. So when I come back over it again, that extra paint will cover the canvas. All right, now he's got multiple colors coming off of his ear. I'm letting this dry right now. We'll come back to that. So he's got multiple colors, which is a little bit of pink, a little white, sienna, burnt sienna, and then a touch of black. And we're just going to stroke that in there. And then we'll cover over it again with lighter. All right, we got that ear done. This one isn't as dark. It's got more of the lighter color and the pink. So we'll just get that all stroked in there. And I'm stroking it right over the black. So the black will kind of fade underneath. And then we'll put lighter over top of it. I'm trying to get a point so I can get that little area there and then come down around. Okay. All right, we're getting there. We're slowly getting there. Let me get this dry. All right, I changed. I need to go. Let me go get another paint. All right, we want to bring this to a point, but we also want to add a little water to the white. We want to thin that, get that as thin as possible, and kind of twist that to a point, because we're going to do these little hairs. These little hairs are just coming up. Little whiskers and hairs, and it's just coming off of the nose. They're thin, and I can't get this thin enough. I need to get a new one. So we got just little hairs coming every which way. Whiskers and hairs. And there's a couple more. Let's see, we got a lot coming off of here. And they're coming like just little short ones, little fine ones. Get a little water in there. Let's see if I can get. Let's see, the hairs are coming from these little freckles right here. But he's got like one right there. And it's a crooked one. And a straight. And then short, long, short, long. And they're going different directions. All right. I'm going to quit while I'm ahead. Then I'm going to take my black. And what's today's date? All right. Since I got more room over here, I'm going to date it on this side. All right, today is 5/12/25. And I wrote barb on there. All right. There's my cow. And that's how I see things. Like I said, I'm not a perfectionist, and I don't want it perfect. But there's my cow. Thank you for watching. Bye.